Here's what we have for you at 7 p.m. These are all NBC News projections. Georgia, too early to call. Indiana, as expected, we are projecting Donald Trump as the projected winner there. Virginia, too early to call, though Biden is leading. In Kentucky, too early to call at this hour. South Carolina, too early to call at this hour. Vermont, up in New England, too early to call. Here is the long and arduous road to 270 electoral votes. Again, one state awarded. As expected, it went to the incumbent president. Forgive me, as I will ask every time we hear that sound, which means we have a call, and here it is. His first inroad into New England. As expected, Joe Biden has been awarded by our projection. The state of Vermont will go to the national map. There we are, the road to 270. One each at this hour, coming up on 7:19 Eastern.
NBC News is now projecting a winner in the Kentucky presidential race. President Donald Trump projected to be the winner in Kentucky. That will be 8 electoral votes for the president. Sorry about that. Technical difficulties. Steve?
In the state of Florida, if you've been watching our coverage, you know the state of conversation there. We are saying the race is too close to call, separated by just under 10,000. In the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, big race, big electoral vote fight tonight, too early to call. In the state of New Hampshire, too early to call. In my home state of New Jersey, Joe Biden, the projected winner of 14 electoral votes. In the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Joe Biden, the projected winner tonight. In the state of Maryland, Joe Biden, the predicted winner tonight. In Oklahoma, Donald Trump holds on to Oklahoma. In Delaware, native son Joe Biden is the projected winner. In D.C., where you can vote without representation in Congress, Joe Biden, the projected winner of the District of Columbia. In Illinois, too early to call is our call. In Tennessee, too early to call, though a lead by Donald Trump. In Missouri, too early to call. In Alabama, too early to call. Nutmeg state of Connecticut, too early to call, though we note a lead on the part of Joe Biden. Mississippi, too early to call. Maine, too early to call. Rhode Island, too early to call, though again we note a lead at this hour on the part of Joe Biden. Ohio, of the battlegrounds, remains too early. Georgia remains too early for us to call. North Carolina remains too early to call. Here is the long and winding road to 270. The colored-in states are the states we have projected, the states we have awarded. We have a projection, and that is a Trump victory, as expected, in the state of Tennessee with its 11 electoral votes. That is our NBC News projection when all the votes are counted. 8:23 Eastern Time. We come back from a break with 2 calls. The state of West Virginia, as expected, has been awarded to Donald Trump with its 5 electoral votes. And then the land of steady habits, as they call it, the nutmeg state of Connecticut, 7 electoral votes in the Joe Biden column. We'll show you where that leads us as the states color in on the road to 270 with awarded electoral votes thus far. Hey, Steve, forgive me. We are awarding the state of Arkansas, as expected, to Donald Trump. 6 electoral votes. That's where the vote is coming down as of this hour. And this is what this state does now to the map. You see red filling in the center of the country. Arkansas now completes that 3-state swing. You see the blue coming up in the Northeast. News is projecting. Let's start with a big one, a big Northeast state with 29 electoral votes. NBC News projecting, as expected, Joe Biden will win in New York. We move on to Texas. We've been talking about Texas. We have it too early to call. Michigan, hugely critical state tonight, too early to call. Wisconsin, ditto, too early to call. Minnesota, too early to call. To the vital southwest state of Arizona, too early to call. Colorado, too early, though Biden, we note, is in the lead. Louisiana, too early, though Trump, we note, is in the lead. In Kansas, too early to call. Let's go through the Midwest. Nebraska, too early to call. Southwest to New Mexico, too early to call. On up to North Dakota, too early to call. Slightly south to South Dakota, too early, though we note Trump leading in South Dakota as expected. And Wyoming, too early to call. Donald Trump is in the lead in Wyoming. Let's check out the bar graph from the outback view of our building. The road to 270 electoral votes awarded thus far 80 to 48 at this hour. Give the interruption another state call, and that is, as expected, Donald Trump the winner in South Dakota. And while it hasn't come up a lot tonight, there is that stretch of coronavirus that is raging through the Dakotas right now, just part of the backdrop of the vote in 2020 during an uncontrolled pandemic. But that's our projection that when it's all said and done, looks to be about a 70-30 split in South Dakota. Here is another red state on the national map. Colorado, Joe Biden. Not a flip, forgive me. This is presidential Colorado, 9 electoral votes. Take back what I said about a flip. Steve, back to you at the board as we look at the first blue state west of the Mississippi. Here we go again. A matching Dakota has been projected for Donald Trump. Again, as expected, North Dakota to go along with South Dakota. Sharp-eyed viewers saw that we had quietly added that bit of red in the northern plains. That's our projection with its 3 electoral votes. That's how the map was expected. Donald Trump hangs on to the state of South Carolina. 9 electoral votes. A call from the Southwest, and that is that Joe Biden has been awarded New Mexico and its 5 electoral votes. Thanks to Vaughn and his good reporting, we've been talking about the Southwest since this puts another blue square on the map west of the Mississippi. Nicole Wallace, where do you put states like Arizona right about now? We have another call, and this is another New England state, and that is New Hampshire, and it's 4 electoral votes awarded to Joe Biden. We believe when all the votes are counted, differentiated by about 22,000 votes right now. Let's take a look at the map and see where this leaves us as we look nationally. Again, 2 different trends of blue, southwest, northeast. Red from the Mississippi Valley to the Atlantic seaboard, all the way up through the middle. We are back. You'll note Missouri snuck in there before the break. Illinois has spoken. Neither of these are pickups. They're holds. This is Joe Biden, the projected winner of Illinois, and it's 20 electoral votes. And Senator Dick Durbin is going to remain in the U.S. Senate as well.
NBC has now projected that in the great state of Missouri, President Donald Trump will once again be the winner in Missouri. Again, that is not a pickup for the Republicans. Missouri has been deep red and in the Republican column for some time now, but that Missouri call is now official in terms of NBC News' projection.
California awards 55 electoral votes, as is our projection. Not a surprise to Joe Biden. Oregon, 7 electoral votes to Joe Biden. Washington, 12 electoral votes to Joe Biden. Idaho, too early to call. We have determined Trump leads. Here's the graphic to 270. It's 192, 114 at this hour. 270 is where you start the conversation. Here's backfilling some of the races we're watching. This is Florida. Too close to call, and we have determined this to be too close to call, though Trump leads. North Carolina, too close to call. Texas, too early to call, Trump leads. Pennsylvania, too early to call. Ohio, too early to call, Trump leads. Michigan, too early to call, period. Georgia, too early to call. Arizona, too early to call, Biden leads. Wisconsin, too early to call. Minnesota, too early to call. Iowa, too early to call. Nevada, too early to call. What are the odds? Let's look at the map. We've been watching the color-coded states get awarded all night. To think that 6 o'clock Eastern time, 5 hours ago when we started this, it was a blank gray slate. Low, they have filled in. Low, there's a lot of math to go. Yeah, we got a big number here. NBC News is projecting Ohio will go in the Trump column when all the votes are counted. 53-45 race right now. That'll change. That'll fluctuate, but that is our projection. 18 electoral votes, a hugely valuable state in the Donald Trump column.
That had previously been characterized as too early to call with Trump in the lead. But again, Ohio now projecting Trump as the winner of Ohio. In terms of what remains outstanding in closely watched swing states, in Florida right now, I should also remind you that that is being characterized as a Donald Trump lead, even though that state has not been called. Florida has not been called by NBC News, but NBC is describing it as a Trump lead. In terms of other states that we're watching, obviously we are focusing, like you can't believe, on Pennsylvania and Arizona and Michigan and Minnesota and Wisconsin. In Texas, NBC is also characterizing that state as a Donald Trump lead at this point, but has not yet.
We have one more. Idaho to Donald Trump, your projected winner. That is no change from the 2016 map. Let's go to tonight's map, which you'll recall hours ago started in all gray without a single state filled in. That is about mirroring how these states have fallen tonight. We have so many in the margins yet to be decided. All indications are it will be days before we know. The projected winner in the Commonwealth of Virginia is Joe Biden. So 13 electoral votes in his column, and let's put up where that leaves us on the road to 270 just to remind everybody. And then we'll talk to our friend James. 206 to 136 race right now, and there it may remain rather paralyzed. Look at this. Sorry to interrupt. NBC News is projecting Donald Trump will be the ultimate winner in Florida, and it's 29 electoral votes. Running right now 51-2 to 47-8, separated by just shy of 400,000 votes in what has just become such a hugely valuable, influential, and for the Democrats, vexing state. As Claire McCaskill and others have pointed out tonight to soothe the anxieties of her fellow Democrats, this was never a projected Biden state. It was on the wish list. It was hoped for. You don't send Barack Obama into a state you don't want. But the candidate himself did not make it a personal priority, preferring instead to concentrate on that blue wall we've been discussing, the very same blue wall that may take days to determine this election result. But Florida, where our projection is concerned, is done and dusted for this cycle. The state call, one of the states you just ran through, and that is Texas. It turns out that Democrats, maybe some of them, spotted a blue mirage in some of the early numbers, and hope overcame facts in this case. Texas remains a red state under Donald Trump, and 52-46 and change is where we have the percentages right now. But here is how it affects the road to 270, because that is a chunk of electoral votes. That's a big hunk of red that now makes a south to north path up through the Dakotas for President Trump. No change here again, but still a big piece of political real estate. Another big piece of real estate on the map. No flip, no change. As expected, Donald Trump has won the state of Montana with its 3 electoral votes, just under 52, 44 for Joe Biden in Maine. Too early to call, but Biden is leading. Remember, there are all kinds of vagaries about the way Mainers vote in these elections. The congressional district divide, the ranked voting. You see Montana, we just flashed from stripes to solid red. Again, you can see the geographic path, Robert Gibbs, that the president is carving. But again, no changes here. It's a small one. It's a mighty one. And that's Rhode Island with its 4 electoral votes. Joe Biden has been projected the winner of Rhode Island. And just as regionalisms have changed and come and gone and developed over the past few election cycles, the Northeast, New England, has become, as you can see reflected on the map, dependable, safe blue ground as for right now. Maine, of course, as we mentioned, remains a question mark. New York, no question about it. Pennsylvania is the next big patch of. First of all, we are projecting the state of Iowa will go to Donald Trump when all the votes are in and counted. And more than that, Joni Ernst, it appears, is heading back to the U.S. Senate. She was under real and concentrated threat for her seat, had a bad debate appearance days before the calendar day of Election Day, and Joni Ernst, U.S. military veteran, is going back into the U.S. Senate. As we have a call on Nebraska 2, Steve Kornacki, that district with its 1 electoral vote, where we're reminded Donald Trump flew in and did a rally looking for that electoral vote. That was the famous evening. People had a 3-mile walk in the cold. That has been awarded to Joe Biden, correct?
Yeah, and there it is. We were just going through it. We can call it back up on the screen right here. This is Omaha metro area. And again, these are the same numbers we were just looking at. There's one update, I think, to come here, but there weren't too many votes left. This is a district Democrats felt very confident in because we've talked about the growing Democratic strength in suburbs, metropolitan areas. Donald Trump had carried this by just 3 points in 2016. Democrats were very confident they could get it this time. Barack Obama, by the way, back in 2008, when he beat John McCain, also carried this district. It had been Republican since then. It goes back to the Democrats, goes to Biden tonight. Democrats get their first electoral vote out of Nebraska in a dozen years. I mean, how about that, though? Just think about it for a second. I got to check the time here. We're at 1:30 on the East Coast. And for all of our talk before this election about is this state going to flip, is that state going to, the first thing to flip didn't happen until 1:30 tonight. And it's a single congressional district in Nebraska. Otherwise, this map is holding to form from what we saw 4 years ago.
The state of Minnesota has been projected to go in the Biden column. It's late at night, but it happened. It got a little wobblier earlier in the evening than a lot of Democrats would have preferred. But as Claire McCaskill pointed out in her prediction that it would go blue, it went blue. That's the margin that we're working on right now, 53.5 to 46 and change. And here is where your road to 270 is, 220, 213. But it's early yet. Sorry, Nicole.
All right, welcome back. We have a projection, actually a call to make at 4:38 a.m. The state of Hawaii and its 4 electoral votes going to Joe Biden. He is the projected winner in that state. We just saw Steve talk about why that is important. Once again, Hawaii now being called for Joe Biden, winning there quite substantially, 65% to Joe Biden. That brings his total up to 224 electoral votes to President Trump's 213.
And more ballots have been counted. NBC News now projects that Maine goes to Biden. 3 of Maine's electoral votes. That is a split. There are 4 electoral votes. There's 1 congressional district that goes to Donald Trump. MSNBC's Ali Velshi is at the big board with a look at where things stand now. Ali, give us the very latest. Maine is the latest.
Ali, I'm going to interrupt you right now because we have a call that we can make. And let me just confirm with control room. Are we ready to make this call? So NBC News can now say that Joe Biden is the apparent winner in Wisconsin, the apparent winner in Wisconsin. That would award him, if it does officially go to him, those 10 electoral votes. 99% of the vote in. Joe Biden, 49.4%. Donald Trump, 48.8%, a difference of 20,510 votes. There's still a little bit left to come in. The Donald Trump team has already said that they are going to demand a recount in Wisconsin, and Wisconsin will allow them to do that because they will be within 1%, the 1% margin in Wisconsin. That can't start, though, for at least another week. But again, for everybody, NBC News is now calling Joe Biden the apparent winner in Wisconsin and potentially the person who's going to take away those 10 electoral votes. This is a major win.
NBC News is projecting Joe Biden the winner of the key battleground state of Michigan. All of its 16 electoral votes go to Joe Biden. As we said, he is the one with the clearest path to 270. Let's see where that puts him. Look at here, another razor-thin margin for Joe Biden over Donald Trump. As this vote was coming in, the outstanding vote was very clearly, according to our own Steve Kornacki, in parts of that state that were favorable to Joe Biden. Another blow to Donald Trump's delusion, I guess, at this point last night, that he was the winner. And it may move us toward what Donald Trump and his campaign is talking about, which is a legal avenue. Once again, Joe Biden, NBC News is now projecting Joe Biden to be the winner of the state of Michigan. Tim.
Biden is president-elect of the United States. Biden is being called with the Pennsylvania votes that have just come in. Biden has been elected, Mika, and tell us about him.
Well, the president-elect of the United States, Joe Biden, has run for president 3 times, and the 3rd time has turned out to be the charm. Not only the charm, but possibly the most consequential election of our lifetimes. He is 77 years old. He was born in Scranton, Pennsylvania, but calls Wilmington, Delaware, his home. At the age of 29, Joe Biden became one of the youngest people ever elected to the U.S. Senate, and that is where he stayed for decades. Even, quite frankly, through tremendous tragedy that has struck his life.
NBC News is now projecting Joe Biden as the winner of Nevada. 6 electoral votes in Nevada. The electoral vote victory by Joe Biden continues to increase at this hour. NBC News projecting Joe Biden the winner of Nevada's 6 electoral votes. That brings Joe Biden's total in the Electoral College now to 279. Donald Trump still holding at 214.
We've got breaking news. As we have been speaking, NBC News has projected President Trump as the winner of the state of Alaska, a state that was still counting ballots.
Gang, you'll forgive me. We have some news to break in with coming up on 11:15 Eastern Time, this many days after Americans actually went to the polls. NBC News is projecting that when every last vote is counted in the state of Arizona, Joe Biden will be awarded 11 electoral votes. Joe Biden, your projected winner in the state of Arizona, part of America's long post-election period. You see the outliers still remain North Carolina and Georgia.
NBC News is now ready to make a couple calls. Let's start with the first. In the state of Georgia, where there's currently a hand recount being done, Joe Biden is the apparent winner. Again, Joe Biden, the apparent winner in Georgia. We use the word apparent when results could change, such as in a recount, although it's not expected that Donald Trump is going to make up that deficit in Georgia. Also, in the state of North Carolina, another state that we had been waiting on, we can now say that Donald Trump is the winner of North Carolina, the projected winner of North Carolina. This gives Donald Trump 15 electoral votes, but Joe Biden is still well in the lead in the Electoral College and is now president-elect and has been so since Pennsylvania was called. Biden with 306 electoral votes, Donald Trump with 232 if everything remains as it is right now.